Hello, I'm here with Alex Stott, Cloudlead's co-founder and finance director. Alex is going to share his insights into how fellow finance professionals can get a soft landing when trying to control the cost of their cloud usage. Alex, what inspired you to co-found Cloudlead in the first place?
Well, I've spent over 30 years in industry, and the one constant that struck me is that whilst technology changes, business needs remain the same. I mean, if I think right back to the beginning of my career, it was micro and mainframe computers and kind of luggable laptops and luggable phones, and now, more than 30 years on, we've got smartphones and browser-based applications. So the technology has changed, which means the way that we do things can adapt, but business needs always remain the same. Now, an interesting point I've also noticed about then and now is that historically technology was adopted by enterprise first. They had the resources, they had the people, they had the skills, the experience to overcome early adoption challenges. But today, looking at the cloud-based apps that are available, they actually suit SMEs, and SMEs are actually now in a much better position to embrace cloud. They're nimbler, they don't have the heritage that enterprise struggles with. Even before COVID, we had trends to move infrastructure from on-premise to data center and into the cloud. And why were companies doing that? What were their business needs they were addressing? Well, cloud provides cost savings. It can provide enhanced security. It gives better governance. That's from the company's perspective. From the worker, the employee perspective, it enables a more employee-centric work-life balance, distributed working in a nutshell. And I'll give you an example. I was involved, it was just before the COVID outbreak, with a company providing services into the health service. And there it was absolutely all about enabling distributed working, because the health service, even before COVID, was facing increased demand, but a reduction in the supply of, for example, doctors, because the new doctors coming up didn't want to spend their days going into an office, going into a surgery. They wanted, and in fact they were demanding, that work-life balance that we've spoken about again throughout my career. And what happened post-COVID? Overnight the offices closed, and this just silenced all the objections that have been put up to it, because no one had a choice. And in fact, what we've seen is that COVID has compressed 10 years into 12 months.
So what does the competitive landscape look like out there for people that you might be competing with?
Well, there are no great surprises. We've carried out research, and our research tells us it's US based, it's enterprise focused, and it tends to be a tech to tech conversation. And so what we've seen is there's a gap at the SME level. There's a real desire, just as with all the other cloud-based apps that SMEs are using, for a plug and play solution. They really don't want to pay for those professional services that enterprise is forced to pay.
So wearing your financial director's hat on, what are the common problems that your fellow finance professionals encounter when trying to control their cloud costs?
Well, it's two sides of the same coin, really. On the one hand, the positives, all that shiny kit disappears. You turn your CapEx into OpEx, which is, one of the great drivers. You empower your technology functions to right-size their infrastructure. That's the positive side of the coin. On the negative side of the coin, finance or procurement feel that they lose control. Certainly, they feel that there are too many surprises, and their ability to forecast their cost base seems to disappear overnight. And this can lead to, a constant state of conflict within the organization, which obviously goes to counter the benefits of moving to a cloud infrastructure. More specifically, and something that hits every FD in the wallet, is cost overspend. Research again shows us that on average, companies are paying 40% more than they need to pay. But that average, as usual, masks massive overspend by companies with dynamic infrastructure needs. Fintech, medtech, all of these companies which have needs that change from day to day, if not hour to hour. And there is a big opportunity for cost overspend in those companies.
So the big question is then for finance professionals is what's the solution?
Well, I mean, if you're enterprise, you throw people at the problem. You set up multifunctional teams. You've got finance, you've got procurement, you've got technology on a single team, managing it for the organization on a dynamic basis. In fact, this has led to a I don't know what to call it, called FinOps. SMEs and corporate mid-markets can't afford to throw people at the problem. And what they need is a simple automated information delivery system, plug and play, as I said, designed for leadership teams, creating a common truth within the organization, which enables those challenges to be resolved, for cloud infrastructure to be used efficiently, and most importantly, for companies to achieve their strategic goals.
So casting your mind back, what did you learn from the first time experiences of utilizing the cloud?
Well, I mean, the positives can be achieved. You can have more efficient working practices. For your employees, you've got enhanced accessibility, enabling remote working. All those issues that even just 5 years ago existed around giving your employees who are on the road access to your core working platforms have disappeared, because all you need is access to the internet. From a cost perspective, it leads to right sizing of the infrastructure. And don't forget future-proofing of the infrastructure. Again, no longer do you have the issues of, well, if I buy it now, will it be out of date in 3 years' time? You pass all of those problems across to the cloud infrastructure provider, and he does it so much more efficiently, feeding through into the bottom line. So that's on the positive side. On the negative side, the pricing structures are opaque, to say the least, with thousands of cost lines to take into account. The technology discourse that is used is practically unintelligible to the finance and procurement teams. This can lead to a buildup of frustration because the finance and procurement teams feel they're losing control. And again, from a specifically FD's perspective, you can have lots of unpleasant surprises at the end of the month. When the bill comes in, it's too late to do anything about it. And by the way, by the time you've analysed that bill, you're halfway through into the next accounting period.
So as an FD about to utilise the cloud or migrate to the cloud and trying to control those costs, what would you have done differently in hindsight?
Well, if you're able to, take the time and commit the resources in advance to build understanding with the company. That's the enterprise way.
And what are your recommendations that you'd make to your fellow finance professionals as they migrate and begin to utilise the cloud?
So speaking to specifically non-enterprise companies, so we're talking SMEs and CMMs, common mid-market, if you can't follow the enterprise way, which you can't because you haven't got the ability to incur the costs and let alone take the time, find an automated solution that puts you back in control.
So Cloud Marshal helps you control the costs. We understand that, but what's next for Cloud Marshal? What's on your roadmap?
So in terms of the product roadmap, we've got 3 levels of product mapped out. Analyze, that's our cost management, our base solution, if you like, and that's being deployed as we speak. Moving forward, we've got plan and predict. Now, Plan and Predict are going to build on the base solution, and the intent is to enable companies to plan forward, to get a clear understanding of what the cost drivers and the value drivers are using the new infrastructure, to carry out scenario planning. For example, to understand not just what it's going to cost to develop a new product, but how much it's going to cost to deploy it. Another example, what or how will my costs change as I change my sales products mix? So in other words, to give companies the ability to achieve efficient forecasting and strategic goals. And I could go on, but I won't.
Thank you very much.